Hey class, welcome back. Everybody here? Who's not here? Raise your hand. All right, good to have you all back here again. Hey, we're going to change the gears a little bit here. We're going to talk about detailing, not necessarily about doing collision work. So, four main things about detailing with a car. One, the surface. Pretty much everything that's painted on the car. In this particular car, white. Number two, glass. Glass has to be very, very clean, shiny, looking like a diamond, no streaks. And then third, and possibly lastly, the interior, but we'll come back to that. All right, I want to talk about the surface here. Right now, this car has been washed, but you can still feel a bit of a grit on here, because that is road grime penetrating into your paint surface. There's a few ways you can get it off. One, you could use a buffer. A buffer will get off your contaminants, it'll get off light scratches, and it'll get off road grime and tar. But the bad part about buffing, it can make a mess. It could, if you don't have it on your textured, masked off your textured, your grill, your cowl panel, yourself, it could make a real mess for you. Another thing, you have to be experienced, trained with a buffer. If you do it wrong, you're going to open up a big can of whoops, what am I going to do now? So it's important to be trained on that. But there's another way of prepping your surface, and I'm going to show you that today. There's a product out there called Clay Magic, Clay Bar, numerous names of the product itself. Now, how you use this, and we're going to do a surface right here. I like to use a mist and shine. I'm not telling you about this product, I'm just telling you this is what I like to use here in the shop. You could also use soapy water as a lubricant. You could also use window spray. But as you'll see, I like to use a mist and shine. You have to use a lubricant. You need some clean rags. What I like to use is either some old t-shirts or old underwear. Hopefully I don't mess these up too much because I got to wear them back home again. All right, so I'm going to do a little spot here. You spray it on there, and then you use this as, like I said, a lubricant. And it's going to take off all your contaminants that's actually stuck and embedded in your paint surface. As you can see, it's not like a sponge. I'm not scrubbing with it, but I'm trying to be very consistent with it, back and forth. Now you'll know how much to use, because if you comes to a stop, you don't have enough lubricant. If it's dripping down the front of your car, you may have too much lubricant on there. So this whole surface is done. Now this gets off some road tar, it takes off overspray, it takes off road grime. It does not take off scratches or other contaminants like that. Now I wipe this down. Another important thing is this lubricant has to come off while it's still wet. So that's why I like to do one panel at a time, all the way across. And don't get it wet, so you got to make sure the car was washed and thoroughly dried before you do this. Now I don't know if the camera picks up if you can see a difference, but this is very smooth, and this feels like I didn't touch it at all. And that's what I like to use. Now one of the ways I like to do it, I'm going to do this other side here. But this time I'm going to use a buffer. I'm going to use a buffer, but I'm going to use it as to take it off, not necessarily buffing with compound. The problem with using compound is now you're going to have to use some safety equipment, such as a mask, or you're going to have to use some eye protection. If you get compound in your eye, it will hurt. And you don't want to breathe this stuff while it's floating in the air. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over to a buffer. This is a finishing pad on here. Again, I'm very experienced with this thing. In fact, I cracked my baby tooth with one of these. I'm using this just like I would with a rag. Now it is throwing it a bit. But you can see, you can actually, if you do it right, you do it faster and a better job. Okay. Now again, if you're using a buffer, you have to use a mask or eye protection. Very important. But I'm not using compound, I'm just using a wax. So that's the number one way I like to prep a car up for detailing with the clay matching. Now if you do one side, you're going to have to come back, kind of finish up on this side over here. Because you can see we splattered over here on this side here. Okay, so I'm just going to finish this up over here. And just about like that, the hood is done. Now it'll take you about 15-20 minutes for just one person to do a whole car. But it feels like you buffed it out all day long. It's one of those tricks of the trade for doing a detailing on an outside car. All right, Kenny, come on over here. I'm going to show you another way that we like to detail cars. Now this car was washed. All the glass was washed. This glass was washed with just soap and water. Now normally, this is how people normally wash windows. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you another way. I'm going to get a new piece of towel, a couple sprays. I'm going to use steel wool, fine steel wool. I know what you're thinking, oh, not steel wool. You could use fine steel wool on glass. Very important to get all your edges. Now, actually, I'm just spreading out the window spray. So I really don't need that much. Nice clean towel. Now this was already washed how many times? Washed once with soap and water, washed once already normally with steel wool. Very important. Now you could do the insides, even if it's tinted glass, but if it's an aftermarket tinted glass, I don't recommend doing the insides of aftermarket tinted glass. I don't recommend doing outside mirrors. Some manufacturers have a tint on them. This could scratch it. Now obviously you don't use this on your surface, you don't use this on your trim or doing your chrome. Okay, lastly, on the inside of the car, one of my tricks is I like to use some sort of a nice smelling. In this particular is clean linen, and I open up the car after the car is all done. I give it a couple shots. That's all you need to know. I want the customer to get into the car, see the car shiny, see the windows is all nice and clean, and smell nice and clean. You did a good job. So that's what we're talking about, detailing. I want to thank Kenny for doing the video. Nice job, Kenny. And we'll see you soon in class. I'm going to be sending you 10 questions of what we just talked about here. Get them back to me as soon as you can. Right, Matt? Right, Matt? Today. All right, then. Thanks. See you in class.